My name is Karen Ladendorf, and this is my theory presentation for experiential learning theory. I chose this theory because originally I thought, ooh, experience-based learning. And then through my research, I've discovered that this is the foundation for that, and have learned quite a bit about this very phenomenal theory, experiential learning theory. Experiential learning theory is mainly researched and promoted by Dr. David Kolb. He is currently professor of organizational behavior at Weatherhead School of Management, which is at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. He is an author, researcher, and also founder and chairman of the Experience-Based Learning Systems. And I will discuss more about his organization later in my presentation. So when we look at experiential learning theory, we really want to stop and say, well, what is this? To understand what it is, we want to start with Dr. Kolb's definition of learning. Dr. Kolb states, learning is the process whereby knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. Knowledge results from the combination of grasping and transforming experience. So this adult learning model mainly, is a holistic and cycle model of the learning process. And experiential learning theory places a very strong emphasis on the role that experiences play in our learning process. So experiences are really the foundation and the center for experiential learning theory. Experiential learning theory has some historical origins as well. Three theorists that Kolb points out in his writings are Dewey, Piaget, and Lewin. And when we look at their three models of learning, we can see they all look a little different, but there are definite commonalities. Beginning first with Piaget, his model of learning and cognitive development was really focused on the child from birth to age 15. However, as we look at those stages, we will see many connections between Piaget, Dewey, and Lewin. So Piaget begins from 0 to 2 years old with a child who is in sensory motor stage, and the child understands the world through feeling, touch, or that concrete experience or understanding. By age 2 to 6, the child's in representational stage, and this is where the child can take the understanding of the concrete experiences and begin to internalize and reflect on those. By the ages of 7 to 11, the child is in concrete operation stage, and this is where they develop abstract symbolic abilities. They can take the reflections of those concrete experiences and begin to form understanding and knowledge. And finally, by the ages of 12 to 15, the child is in formal operations, and they use those symbolic skills that they developed to test their ideas and to continue their growth and understanding. So while not a cycle process, it has many of the same characteristics of our next two theorists. Dewey, his theory is a spiral theory. An adult learner, so not a child like Piaget, but an adult learner, will have an initial impulse based on a concrete experience. So some kind of an experience. We then go into this mode where the learner is observing what happened with that impulse and that concrete experience. The learner then develops a knowledge and understanding of the observation and makes a final judgment. That judgment spirals them into a new impulse, which then leads to another observation, additional knowledge and judgment, and the spiral continues. So just like Piaget at the young child, we are looking at, with Dewey's model, a concrete experience. Finally, Lewin, as we see right off the bat with his model, we begin with a concrete experience. So there are some of our connections. And just like Piaget and Dewey, we move into observations. We have that concrete experience, and then we observe and reflect that experience. We form some understandings of that experience and some knowledge, and then we test that knowledge. that leads us into new experiences. So all three of these theories, while Piaget's may not be in the cycle model, it has the same ideas and foundation in a concrete experience. And that leads us really into the experiential learning theory and Kolb's learning style inventory. And as we look at this, there are specific characteristics of experiential learning theory. These are very similar to Piaget, Dewey, and Lewin, in that learning is an emergent process. It is a constant process. We're not focused on the product or specific skill. We're more focused on the outcome. Knowledge and ideas are not fixed. We can constantly form and reform and reshape our knowledge and understanding through additional experiences. And this is a continuous cycle. We will always continue to spiral through new learning and understanding. And when we look at the theory specifically, we can see it looks very similar to our three theorists from earlier. There are 4 stages to the experiential learning cycle. We begin with a concrete experience, just like Lewin, just like Dewey, and just like the young child for Piaget. In this, the concrete experience, it's something specific you experience. It could be a hands-on physical experience, but it does not necessarily have to be. We then move into a reflective observation. What just happened? We take those reflections and we move to abstract conceptualization. It's where we form new understandings and concepts based on that reflection of the concrete experience. And finally, we move into active experimentation. This is where we test and try and get, if you will, down and dirty, really get to know our new knowledge. So we start with that concrete or immediate experience that forms the base for our reflection. We then take that reflection and we create new abstract knowledge and thoughts. This knowledge becomes what we test and verify, and then is used to create even more new, deeper experiences. And Kolb said, when we look at this cycle, he did state when a concrete experience is enriched by reflection, given meaning by thinking, transformed by action, the newer experience becomes richer, broader, and deeper. So we go through the learning cycle to have a new experience. We come into that experience with some knowledge, but now we have a chance to further understand and grow our knowledge in that area. To do this, Kolb states there are 2 modes of learning in the experiential learning cycle. If we harken back to his definition of learning, we see grasping and transforming as the modes of learning. In the grasping experiences, this is how we actually perceive an experience. This can be done one of 2 ways. We can perceive an experience through a concrete, hands-on, something physically or personally happening. We can also grasp or perceive the experience by stopping, thinking, and analyzing information to gather that knowledge. The other mode is transforming. This is how we actually create the knowledge. So we grasp the knowledge with grasping, and now we're going to create the knowledge with transforming. And we create it by either watching and reflecting on that experience, or by diving in, jumping, and learning by doing. So when we add these 2 modes of learning to the experiential learning theory cycle, we can see that we go through a pattern of grasping, transforming, grasping, transforming. And when we look at grasping, we have 2 polar opposites. We are either grasping by experiencing it or grasping by understanding a reflection, analyzing that reflection. We are transforming experiences by reflecting on them or by physically testing them, doing something with them. So with these polar opposites, as learners, we have to find how we will best move through this learning cycle. And that is where Kolb's research fell into his learning style inventory. Kolb found that as people move through the cycle, how they moved through and where their strengths in the cycle fell were based on individual learning styles. So the learning cycle itself is constant, but how we navigate through it is the individualized portion. And it's based on what our preferred learning style is. Based on his research, Kolb found that there were 4 main styles that emerged: diverging, converging, assimilating, and accommodating. When we look at a diverging learning style, learners with this as their strength are very good at taking a look at that concrete situation and viewing it from multiple points of view. They are wonderful also in brainstorming sessions. Someone who's really strong in a converging learning style is very good at problem solving, looking at that experience and what can we do with that? Let's problem solve this. Someone who is strong in assimilating understands a wide range of knowledge and information, but can put it down into an easy to understand format. And finally, someone who's strong in accommodating is very strong in that hands-on, trying, learning by doing setting. And they also tend to follow a gut instinct versus analysis. And now when we take these 4 learning styles and we add them into our expanded chart, we see that people who are very strong in diverging tend to also be very strong in that concrete experience to the reflective observation stages. Someone who's very strong in assimilating tend to be very comfortable in the reflective observation to abstract conceptualization stages. Converging strengths fall between abstract conceptualization and active experimentation. Finally, accommodating between active experimentation and concrete experience. How we progress through these stages, including how long we spend, how in-depth we go, and how much growth and knowledge we gain, is really dependent on our preferred learning style. We're going to spend more time experiencing and reflecting if we are more of a diverging learning style. We are going to spend more time forming knowledge and playing with it if we are more of a converging learning style. And that leads us into our final question of, well, how do I know what my learning style is, or what really influences my learning style? And Kolb found through his research, there were 5 main influences on an individual's preferred learning style. Personality type. Really, your genetic makeup is going to have a direct impact on how you prefer to learn and how you will move through the cycle. Early educational specialization. What we're really looking at is positive learning experiences you had at a young age, how it shaped your preferred learning style, and how it really propelled you toward a specialization as you grew older. This has a direct impact on your preferred learning style. Your current professional career directly impacts your learning style because you are with a set group of people throughout your day focused on a specific profession or a specific problem. And you have a shared mentality and belief system with your colleagues. Even more specifically, Kolb found that your current job or roles at your job, the immediate pressures from your career or specific projects you're working on, have a direct impact on your learning style. And finally, adaptive competencies. Things you are currently working on, demands of an individual task, plus your personal skills, creates your adaptive competencies, which has a direct impact on your preferred learning style. I then looked at what research is being done on experiential learning theory. And what I have found is, first, in my preferred area, my career being in education, K-12, I looked at that first, and harkening back to Kolb. And I found that we look at education in 3 areas: K-12, higher education, and adult learning. And at the K-12 level, there's really not a lot of research on experiential learning theory. We see it more at higher education and in adult learning, where we're doing a lot of research between experiential learning theory and internships, mentoring, on-the-job training, helping prepare current higher education students to enter the workforce and be successful in their first few years. The research is still growing in the area of management, or in the area of K-12 education. For management, we're seeing a lot of research being done between management practices and organizational process. How your learning style has a direct impact on your management style, decision making, and problem solving. Computer and information science, learning style and end user software use and end user training. For psychology, learning styles and psychometrics. For medicine and nursing, I found these two areas very interesting. The impact of experiential learning theory, learning styles, and on medical specialties such as residency, surgical training, your continuing ed, your diagnostic ability, and your decision making. Accounting, there's a lot of research being done here that harkens back to the adult learning research for education. They're looking at learning styles, experiential learning, and comparing current accounting majors and current practitioners and their course performance based on their experiences. And in law, we are looking at, again, experiential learning, learning styles, and your ability to problem solve and your decision making. So there is quite a bit of research out there, and it continues to grow. It's growing in more areas than others, and one area I do hope to see continued growth in, based on my personal interest, would be that K-12 education. And again, what really drew me towards experiential learning theory was, experience-based learning. Experiential learning theory can be the foundation for experience-based learning, but experience-based learning and experiential education, these are not theories. These are related methods, they're philosophies, and their foundation can be experiential learning theory and the experiential learning theory cycle. We're seeing a little more growth in this area. And one thing that I do want to point out is Dr. Kolb, as I stated earlier, is the founder and chairman of Experience-Based Learning Systems Incorporated. His organization, along with his colleagues, they are working to develop research and standards for experience-based learning that can be done at all levels, in all areas. And the research is very, very interesting. And as I close out my presentation, I do want to highlight one reference specifically. The reference at the bottom of this screen, Experience-Based Learning Systems Incorporated. This again is the organization that Dr. Kolb is founder and chairman of. If you go to his website, they have a whole section devoted to the research that he and his colleagues are currently doing. It is all posted and it is all available for free. So if you are interested in experiential learning theory, I highly recommend taking a look at Dr. Kolb's organization's website. Take a look at the research tab and explore all the research being done on experiential learning theory, learning styles inventory, and different areas of profession, education, and how we communicate and work together. And again, additional references here. Most can also be found on Dr. Kolb's site, learningfromexperience.com. And I thank you very much.